Peppa Pig and the Clock of Patience. Peppa and George eagerly wait for the cake to bake. Peppa keeps looking at the clock. Why is it taking so long? Suddenly, the old pendulum clock speaks. Be patient, Peppa! George gasps in surprise. The clock ticks softly, tick-tock, and Peppa watches, learning to wait calmly.
Hey!
When the ding sounds, Mummy Pig brings out the cake. Peppa cheers. I waited. The family sits on the porch, enjoying the warm cake. The ticking clock reminds them, patience brings sweet rewards. Peppa and George spotted a rolling wheel in the yard and decided the adventure started here. This wheel seems to never stop, and Peppa had to run fast just to catch up. Despite trying, George couldn't catch the wheel, but he could only laugh after every fall. The wheel didn't just roll fast, it also created a fresh breeze of flowers in the park. Finally, the wheel stopped, and Peppa and George realized that sometimes the best adventures are the simplest ones. And in the end, Peppa and George understood that sometimes letting things roll is the most fun of all. Peppa Pig and the Backyard Ball Game. Peppa and George went to the yard with a big ball, Daddy and Mummy Pig cheering them on. Peppa kicked the ball. George ran to catch it, both laughing happily. Daddy Pig kicked the ball into the goal. Peppa and George shouted with excitement. George accidentally kicked the ball too hard. It hit a bush. Peppa and Daddy Pig giggled. The family stood in a circle, kicking the ball together, laughing and enjoying the afternoon. Peppa Pig and the Mushroom Picking Adventure. Peppa and George took baskets into the forest. Daddy and Mummy Pig followed, everyone excited to explore. Wow! Peppa saw brown mushrooms growing on the grass, pointed and cheered. George jumped with joy. Daddy Pig showed Peppa how to pick mushrooms gently. Mummy Pig took photos. George picked a big mushroom, dropping smaller ones. Peppa laughed and helped him pick them up. The family placed mushrooms into their baskets, laughing, the forest fresh and green. The family left the forest with full baskets. Mummy Pig promised to make a delicious mushroom soup. Peppa and George were walking when they discovered a mysterious vegetable garden with tall, colorful plants. George curiously touched a giant carrot, while Peppa picked up a pumpkin almost as big as her head.
Wow!
Mummy Pig entered the garden, smiling and said, "Look, kids, these vegetables are really special." Peppa and George played hopping through the tall plants, laughing joyfully across the garden. Daddy Pig appeared with a small cart so the whole family could harvest the vegetables together. Finally, the whole family stood in the garden, admiring the colorful pumpkins, carrots and greens, happily taking a family photo. Peppa and George spotted a kite soaring high in the sky and decided to try flying their own kite. Peppa started running fast, pulling the kite up, but sometimes the wind just wouldn't cooperate. The kite flew high and spun around, making Peppa stumble. But George was ready to help. Together, they ran, keeping the kite stable in the wind. Finally, the kite flew high in the clear blue sky, and Peppa and George felt so proud. Although the adventure was a bit tough, Peppa and George knew that joy came from the simplest moments. Peppa and George spotted a wooden bridge across a stream and decided to cross it. The wooden bridge seemed a bit wobbly, but Peppa is always the bravest one. Sometimes, even a leaf can throw off your balance, but Peppa never gives up. Halfway across, Peppa stops to admire the stream below, but George is worrying about her safety. The bridge shakes a little, but Peppa crosses it successfully. Now it's George's turn. Although George is a bit scared, Peppa is ready to help him face this challenge. Peppa Pig and the Rainy Day Dance. Peppa and George stood under the porch, wearing raincoats and boots. Daddy and Mummy Pig prepared music. Peppa danced in small steps to the rhythm of the rain. George bounced along, both laughing happily. Daddy Pig danced along, slipping slightly in a puddle. Peppa and George giggled. Peppa and George danced continuously, raising their hands and spinning, water splashing. The whole family laughed joyfully. The family sat in front of the porch, relaxing and laughing after dancing in the rain, thinking about what game to play next. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications to join the fun with Peppa Pig's family. Peppa and George couldn't believe their eyes when they saw a piece of bread flying through the air. They decided to chase the flying bread, but it was fast and looped around like a plane. It seemed like this piece of bread wasn't easy to catch, and it took a quick break on a tree branch. Surely this bread knew how to play tag, and Peppa seemed to be its favorite target. After an adventure, Peppa finally caught the flying bread and smiled happily. Finally, Peppa and George realized that sometimes the best adventures are when you can enjoy the fruits of your efforts. Peppa Pig and the Rainbow Slide. In her dream, a giant rainbow appeared across the sky. The rainbow turned into a sparkling crystal slide. George slid down first, laughing, while Peppa waved and followed. Mommy Pig and Daddy Pig joined, leaving trails of shining light. It turns out, Peppa was dreaming on the green meadow, her smile still shining. Oh, wait. Perhaps Peppa is still dreaming. Peppa and George stood on the grass, seeing a big banner. Funny dance contest. George did a flip in the air, making Peppa laugh happily. Peppa tried dancing to the music, but slipped on a leaf, both of them laughing uncontrollably. Daddy and Mummy Pig stood beside them, clapping and cheering them on. Finally, Peppa and George received their medals, and the whole family hugged and laughed together. Peppa and George were amazed when a giant ball rolled toward them. The ball was too big, but Peppa didn't give up and decided to push it. The rolling ball created funny circles, making Peppa laugh non-stop. George joined in, helping Peppa to control the giant ball together. When the ball hit a puddle, huge splashes sprayed everywhere, making them laugh even more. Finally, they realized that sometimes the greatest fun is just a giant ball and your own laughter. Peppa and George walked into a forest full of colorful flowers. George discovered a small beehive on a branch and excitedly pointed it out to Peppa. Mommy Pig followed behind, reminding them, "Be gentle, don't scare the bees." Peppa and George picked a few flowers and put them in a small basket, smiling brightly. Daddy Pig brought a small cart to help them safely carry the basket of flowers out. Finally, the whole family stood in the flower forest, admiring the bright colors and laughing happily. Peppa and George were walking in the park when they spotted a small wooden bridge over a clear stream.
Wow!
Peppa stepped onto the bridge, but it wobbled a little, making her feel a bit uneasy. George stood behind, feeling a little worried. Mummy Pig walked up, holding their hands and gently reassuring them. "Take it slow, don't worry." The three of them crossed the bridge together, and Peppa and George were excited to see sparkling stones in the stream below. When they reached the middle of the bridge, they paused, taking in the fresh air and enjoying the peaceful moment. Finally, the whole family stood at the end of the bridge, watching the flowing stream and surrounding trees, enjoying the simple joys of life. Peppa Pig and the Forest Walking Adventure. Peppa and George walked along the forest trail, Daddy and Mummy Pig following, with trees green on both sides. Peppa spotted a yellow butterfly flying. George pointed excitedly. Daddy Pig slid lightly on a wet branch. Peppa and George giggled. Mummy Pig picked some wild strawberries and gave them to Peppa and George, both laughing happily. The family stood on a hilltop, looking at the green forest, holding hands and laughing happily. Peppa and George were walking through a colorful flower field, surrounded by bright sunflowers and white daisies. Peppa sat down, picked a daisy, and handed it to George, making both of them smile. George held the flower and tried to smell it, but suddenly a gentle breeze blew, making the flower float away. Peppa quickly ran after the floating flower, and George chased after her, both of them laughing. Mummy and Daddy Pig stood by, watching as the kids ran after each other in the flower field, happily watching them. Finally, Peppa and George sat under a big tree in the flower field, looking at the flowers and feeling the simple joy of nature. Peppa and George packed the picnic basket with Mummy Pig, bringing bread, fruit, and drinks. The family walked into the colorful flower garden with bees and butterflies flying around.
Hey!
Peppa picked a red rose. George picked a sunflower, both laughing happily. Daddy Pig lifted Peppa to reach a tall flower. Peppa raised her hand excitedly. George curiously watched a snail crawling on a leaf. The family sat on the picnic blanket, eating bread, drinking water, and enjoying the beautiful garden view. Peppa and George were sitting in the yard when they looked up at the sky and saw a cloud shaped like a bear. Peppa pointed at the sky and said, "Look, this cloud looks like a bear sleeping." George mimicked the bear, lying down and pretending to sleep on the grass, making Peppa laugh loudly. Mummy Pig walked over and saw them, saying, "You both are so cute, just like real bears." Peppa and George stood up and began imitating bears, walking slowly around the yard, laughing happily. Finally, the whole family sat together in the yard, looking at the bear-shaped cloud and enjoying the simple joy of the moment. Peppa was surprised to see a strange hat on the grass.
Whoa!
George ran over and touched it, lights twinkling from the hat.
Whoa!
Peppa put the hat on. Bubbles of light floated across the garden. Magical indeed. George tried the hat too, bubbles swirling around them, making them laugh out loud. The bubbles rose and settled on the tree branches, sparkling in the sunlight. They took off the hat, bubbles faded, but the magical joy lingered in the garden. Peppa and George ran outside to play as the rain started. They jumped into puddles, splashing water everywhere. Mummy Pig brought raincoats raincoats and reminded them, "Be careful, don't slip." Daddy Pig appeared with a big umbrella, sheltering Peppa and George from the rain. Peppa found a giant puddle, carefully jumped in, and laughed with joy. Finally, the whole family stood under the umbrella, watching Peppa and George dance in the rain, laughing together. Peppa Pig and the Painting Day. Peppa and George sat on chairs in the living room, drawing their pictures.
Wow!
Peppa started drawing a house. George drew a cat, both laughing happily. Peppa drew some trees. George drew a few clouds, together creating a colorful picture. Peppa and George added bright flowers around the picture, completing it. Peppa and George admired their artwork, laughing and showing each other their creations. Peppa Pig and the Fishing Day Adventure. Peppa and George brought fishing rods to the lake, Daddy and Mummy Pig following, the lake sparkling in the sun. Peppa cast her line into the water. George watched the surface, eagerly waiting. Daddy Pig accidentally dropped his fishing rod into the lake. Peppa and George giggled. Peppa caught a flower floating on the water. George cheered, and the whole family laughed with delight. The family packed up. Peppa and George waved goodbye to the lake, promising to come back next time. Peppa and George brought the big building block set from the house to the yard, excited to start the game. Mummy Pig spread a large blanket on the grass, making it comfortable for Peppa and George to play with their Lego. Peppa started building a beautiful castle with the large blocks, while George carefully placed the smaller pieces around it. Daddy Pig joined in, trying to build a tall tower with the blocks, making the whole family laugh. Mummy Pig added special blocks to the castle, creating flags and flowers, and the whole family clapped and cheered. The family sat around the Lego castle, laughing happily and taking photos of their wonderful creation. Peppa Pig and the Dancing Cake. Mummy Pig is baking a delicious cake today. Peppa and George can't wait to try it. But suddenly, the cake starts bouncing on the table. Peppa jumps in surprise, and George laughs out loud. The cake hops around the house, while Peppa and George chase it, laughing. Daddy Pig wakes up with a start, looks around, then goes back to sleep. Finally, the cake lands on the plate and smiles, as if to say, "Come eat me." The family sits on the porch, enjoying the sweet, silly cake together. What a fun and tasty day! Peppa and George were playing in the garden when they spotted a giant toy car rolling toward them. George quickly climbed into the toy car, took the wheel, and laughed happily as the car started rolling. Peppa tried to chase the car, but it was too fast, making her run after it. Mummy Pig saw them and reminded, "Be careful! Don't let the car roll too far!" Peppa and George took turns driving the toy car, going over small tree stumps in the garden. Finally, the toy car stopped, and Peppa and George got out, laughing joyfully from their fun adventure. Peppa and George were walking near a sparkling, crystal-clear lake.
Whoa!
Peppa set a paper boat out on the water, and George watched it float gently. Daddy Pig brought a small paddleboard, suggesting they could have a boat race. Peppa and George paddled lightly, laughing as their boat glided across the lake. Mummy Pig stood by the lake, taking pictures and reminding them, "Don't go too far." Finally, the whole family stood by the lake, admiring the sparkling water and enjoying a peaceful moment. Peppa and George were playing in the park when suddenly some balloons started floating in the air. Both of them decided to chase after the flying balloons, but they kept floating higher and higher. George jumped as high as he could to catch one, but sadly, he still couldn't reach it. Peppa found a chair to climb on, stretching her hands out, but the balloon floated even further away. Finally, one balloon gently floated down near Peppa and George, and they were thrilled to catch it. Peppa and George realized that sometimes the simplest joys bring the happiest moments. Peppa looked out the window and saw the rain, water pattering on the roof. Mummy Pig gave Peppa and George their rain boots and coats.
Hey!
Peppa and George jumped in puddles, splashing water everywhere, laughing happily. Daddy Pig joined in, jumping into the puddles with Peppa and George. The family jumped across many puddles, creating a playful rain of splashes. Peppa and George couldn't believe their eyes.
Wow.
A giant truck was parked right in their yard. This truck is not only big but full of strange things inside. Peppa is curious and wants to try them all. George tried to push the giant wheel, but he might need a bit more strength to move it. No worries. Peppa decides to drive the giant truck, but it seems it's not as easy as she thought. Sometimes all it takes is a little push on the gas pedal to start an adventure, even if it's a bit out of control. Finally, the truck stops, and Peppa and George realize one thing. Sometimes the fun starts with the most random things. Peppa Pig and the Rainy Day Adventure. Peppa and George put on raincoats, ready to explore the rainy day with their parents. Peppa jumped into a puddle, George followed, Daddy Pig joined in happily. Mummy Pig held an umbrella, guiding Peppa and George, raindrops sparkling on the leaves. Peppa spotted a frog hopping in a puddle. George cheered. Peppa clapped her hands. The family jumped into bigger puddles, laughing, water splashing everywhere. The family went home, wet but happy. Daddy Pig promised to make delicious hot chocolate. Peppa Pig and the dream of flying to the stars. Peppa was sleeping in bed, moonlight shining into the room, eyes closed. Peppa dreamed she was floating in the sky among the stars. George appeared in the dream, both flying past the sparkling stars. Wow! Peppa and George played among the constellations, spinning and holding hands. Peppa woke up, smiling, looking out the window at the moon and twinkling stars, dreaming of her next adventure. Peppa and George, along with Mummy and Daddy Pig, arrived at the campsite where a campfire was burning brightly. Peppa and George sat around the fire, watching the flames and listening to the wind rustling through the trees. Daddy Pig roasted marshmallows on sticks and handed them out for the kids to enjoy. George ate the marshmallow and said it was the best treat he had ever had. Mummy Pig sang a cheerful song, and the whole family sang together and laughed under the campfire light. Finally, the whole family lay on the blanket, gazing at the starry sky, feeling peaceful and content together. Peppa Pig and the Muddy Picnic Day. Peppa and George packed the picnic basket with bread and juice, excited for the trip.
Oh!
Daddy Pig arrived and signaled the family to go out, everyone laughing happily. The family walked to the park. Mummy Pig spread the blanket under a tree, preparing a perfect picnic spot. Peppa and George ran around the grass, accidentally splashing into a big muddy puddle, mud flying everywhere. The whole family laughed. The family sat on the picnic blanket, eating bread and drinking juice, enjoying the sunny day and happy moments together. Peppa Pig and the Space Adventure. Peppa was lying in bed. The night was dark, her eyes closed. Peppa dreamed she was flying in space, with the moon shining brightly ahead. George appeared with Peppa. Both stepped into a sparkling flying saucer to travel into space. The flying saucer floated in space. Peppa and George saw planets around them, eager to explore. George woke up in the middle of the night, surprised by the sound of giggles. He turned to see Peppa fast asleep. smiling brightly in her dream, surely on an adventure among the stars. Peppa Pig and the Dance Day Adventure. Peppa and George stood in the living room. Daddy and Mummy Pig prepared music.
Wow!
Peppa bounced to the music. George spun around happily, both smiling brightly. Daddy Pig tried to dance along, stumbled a bit. Peppa and George giggled. Mummy Pig helped Daddy Pig keep the rhythm. Peppa and George danced around, clapping to the music. Peppa and George danced continuously, spinning and raising their hands. The whole family laughed joyfully. The family sat together on the couch, relaxing after dancing, laughing, and resting happily.